I'm recording now. Okay. We are going to discuss about a series on HBO Max called The Way Down. And I'm here with Something Found. She is going to talk to us and discuss with me about this interesting series. It is a cult. It is a what is it? Something found is a Christian weight loss cult. This the correct way to apply this or categorize this
Yeah,
thing.
and before, well, first off, hello, Bob. It's really good to hear from you, and thank you for inviting me on this. It's really fun.
Yes.
Um, and I think we're gonna touch on some really good stuff. I also wanted to say, yes, it is about a cult that derives from weight loss. So if anybody is possibly triggered by any type of eating issues, maybe not a good thing to watch. It's not like they go really deep into that, but I just want to be sensitive to anybody that may have that kind of issue and dealing with that issue, because basically that's what this whole cult is about, is that being thin is the way to holiness.
Right.
So I
Right.
want to at least put that out there.
Right. Right. If you're listening and you might be triggered by any of this, be careful. It might not be your thing to listen to right away or all the way through. You may have to listen to it in bits and pieces, and that's fine. So we are putting out that trigger warning that we have. There's violence in this series. There's child abuse.
Yep.
Everything that goes along with cults, control, money, and power over others, right?
Exactly.
Right. So when you first told me about this, in the relevance to mental health, because I always want to bring it back to two things, which is the mental health and the tarot cards, because the tarot cards are, to me at least, and for many others, they are symbols and visuals that lead to a gateway to better mental health, to improving yourself, and to having more self awareness and things of that nature. In relation to that, what kinds of mental health issues? I mean, neither of us are mental health professionals or medical professionals, but just from a layman's perspective, what are some of the mental health issues that you immediately saw when you finished watching this
Well,
series?
yeah, I think you touched on a lot of that, or some of that already. Just the issues of control, power over others, utilization of those classics, the fear,
Mm,
the obligation, the guilt, the trauma, the trauma that was put upon these participants and the pressures they were under to remain a certain way in order to gain approval. There actually was shunning in this, which I found very interesting. They touched on
right,
that a little bit. And
right,
then what we were talking about with the abuse, the fact that the children were, pretty much beaten, because they were supposed to be seen and not heard effectively. And, and I can recall, we all know if you've exited a cult like the one that we did, I mean, that was going on in that cult as well. So, it's that part was kind of shocking to me that that was occurring as part of this one too. And it was like, oh God, so a lot of things. There's so many things to unearth there. Like there's just, I
right.
mean, either one of those topics could be hours long, the way you and I talk. So,
Right, right. We could literally spend all day on just a piece of it.
a piece of
So
that.
I
Yep.
think, we talked about possibly doing a series of
Yeah.
15-minute, 20-minute, or whatever, of discussions about this and putting it out there in the YouTube space for anyone who's interested. I think there are a lot of people that would be interested in what we have to say and just interested in actually watching this. So if you're interested,
Yes.
it is on HBO Max, right? I keep wanting to say Netflix, but it's on
Yeah.
HBO Max.
Yes.
And what is the full name? Let me ring it.
I know. I think it was like the way
The Way Down,
There we
God,
go.
Greed, and the Cult of Gwen Shamblin. It's 3 episodes, and it is just a bizarre. Excuse me, my French. Excuse my French, but it's just one big messy shit show.
Yeah,
Okay, and
yeah,
it's really sad because children have died. Children are committing suicide, and they are being killed by their
mhm,
parents and church members because of this crazy cult.
yeah.
So, and you have
I
everything in between too. I think there's also sexual abuse of adults there. You
well,
know what I mean?
I believe that there was too, but they're not. And that's the only other thing that I would say. I feel like a three-part series was not enough
Yeah,
because they could have touched on a lot more. I mean, so
yeah,
like some of the other topics that they touched on was like, women being, and this is going to sound very familiar to other people who were in the cult we survived, like the submission of women to men, the fact that
right.
decisions couldn't be made without reaching out to some elder or whatever. That
Leader,
was,
yeah, yeah. They
I mean,
call
it
them
was
leaders
very,
there, right? Yeah,
yeah. And so
yeah.
just again, a lot of things that they could have extended that another 3 parts. But overall, what this person's belief was, which these people got into, was to be, and here's where I'll say mild trigger warning, in order to be closer to God, you had to be thin. And so basically, the origins of this was she had issues around food
Right,
when she was growing up. And, she told these people basically the way to God is to only eat when your stomach is growling and
right,
pray the food cravings away when you had food cravings the rest of the day. And a lot of people actually lost significant amount of weight doing that, but basically, as someone in the documentary said, spoiler alert, this has been taught. Portion control has been taught without being in a.
right. It's
So
nothing new.
yeah, but these people attributed it to this, and yeah, it was definitely weird. There was so many weird things going on with
Well, I think also, excuse me, I'm eating an edible, but
that. You should pray that craving for that edible away.
yeah, okay, but yeah, it's to me what I one of the big takeaways I got from this. The big takeaway for me personally is, and I've watched a lot of cult
Same.
documentaries, and I've read a lot of books on cults, and I've been in a cult, so
Mm-hmm.
I have a lot of history and knowledge and experience in these topics, but this one I'm glad that you told me about it because I watched this thing and it was just so darn clear. If it wasn't already super clear to me before, this really hammered down the bare bones structure of a cult because at one point in the documentary series, this guy says it's not really about God or even weight loss. It's really about money and power and control over others, domination over others.
Exactly.
And that is the core of every single cult. You know, I stumbled upon this video that was talking about a lesbian stud cult a couple of
Oh,
weeks
funny.
ago. Okay, it's a TikTok lesbian stud cult. I know it sounds crazy, but it is a real cult, and it's only African American BBW women are allowed to join. Okay, and they all have to worship this stud, this lesbian stud, and she's not really even a full stud. She's quite very feminine and has very feminine. She's not very masculine for a stud.
A stud.
Yeah, for
Right.
listeners that don't know, stud is a term in the LGBT community, specifically in the lesbian community, that describes a masculine lesbian. Right? Am I correct with that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Um,
more on a gender fluid kind of scale, but it's more leaning mask. Yep.
right. Stud, like before when I was hanging out in the lesbian community, I knew studs were full, they were one of the boys, the bros, like they didn't wear makeup and nails and none of that. Now it's a little different. I guess you have, fluid, like you said, gender fluid, but they're different than butch, are they? Are they different than a butch?
I really don't know about that.
Okay, so I don't know really either, but it's a masculine lesbian. Okay, that's the stud. This is called a stud cult, and they all worship this lesbian stud. And she has, I don't know, hundreds of these BBW women. BBW stands for a big, beautiful woman or big black woman. I don't
Okay.
know. But anyway, they're all larger sized women. Okay. And it's the opposite of this shambling woman, She wants them all
Yeah.
to be big. Okay. This
Yeah.
lesbian stud. And they just sit there and they have to get up every morning and pray to her. And they have them on the videos and live streams saying, I worship you and you are my true savior. And it's just replacing her where most religions
Wow.
would put God or Jesus.
Yeah.
Okay,
That
it's
is so
unreal.
crazy.
Like I thought it was a fake. I thought, no, they're faking, they're staging this just for clicks and views. But I looked into it a little further, and these people are serious. They are worshiping her. She is their God. This is their savior. And it's about money and control because
Yeah.
they have to send her X amount of hundreds of dollars every month out of their paycheck. It's always the same thing about money and control. Now
Yeah.
you can say it's God, you can say it's weight loss, you can say it's Jehovah, you can say it's a vacuum
Yep.
cleaner, it's Amway, it's Mary Kay, it's a political leader, it's your nation, it's your race,
Yeah.
all of this stuff. It doesn't really matter. Anything to draw you in. Some people get drawn in with Pepsi, some people like Coca-Cola, but it's
Yep.
all coming from the same companies. You know what I
Yep.
mean?
Yep. 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 I mean, and that's really it. This woman, and initially what drew me to this, what drew me to this documentary was the hair.
Oh my God, what in the world? Oh my, I didn't want to start off with the hair, but it's
I was
inevitable.
just gonna say that I do see a pattern in a lot of cult leaders having an interesting look to them. And I'm talking, and I'm going to rattle off a bunch of them. You had Jim Jones, you had Marshall
Yes.
Applewhite, you
Yes. Oh
had
my God.
you had this lady, you had the guy that was doing the Bikram yoga. They all had
Oh yes,
interesting
Bikram yoga.
physical features to them that you just go, okay. Or even Tammy Faye Baker, I
Oh
mean, just
Lord.
the
Now,
when
yeah.
you say those three words, the first thing, that image that pops in people's minds is in lashes, and it's like
Right.
they all have interesting looks to them, and it just it kind of makes me think, like, okay, what draws these individuals to these types of people when a lot of outsiders would just on physical appearance alone go, huh? What's with this
Yes.
person? So
Right.
I just feel like that's an extension, and here we start getting into the psychology, right? And again, neither of us are psychologists, but we've been through enough, like, interesting items, things in our life that we can pick out some of these patterns, and it comes back to the narcissism with these people, that they do have this expanded sense of self that's delusional. And I mean, it actually shows up and manifests in their physical appearance. And
Right.
that's just my opinion.
Right.
But you just kind of wonder what could have even attracted these people to somebody that just not right at face value looks like the way these people do.
Right.
It's kind of funny to me.
Right.
There's probably a book on that somewhere, and then in terms of physical appearance, that is literally what this woman based her cult on, was lose the weight, get closer to God. And that's, I feel for anyone that really did that, and I mean, they showed some people, and obviously, some of these people went right back to unhealthy weights or worse. I mean, when
Right.
they were saying how they lost 100 pounds, and then they're showing them today, and they're back to, unfortunately, a larger weight for them, and it's like, you just feel for them, because they really were taken in by that hope. Um,
Right.
but I
Right.
don't know. How do we want to lean this into, like, what the second part of this, which is tarot, and how do we want to kind of meld that in?
Well, we've got the tower card. Our good old tower card. I love the tower card. That's
Yep.
I think for any person that used to be in the Jehovah's Witness cult going into tarot, that tower card is a big milestone, a big card of interest because it symbolizes so much. At least for me, I know for you, the tower
Yep.
card is all about exposing cults, breaking down these old stagnant structures, and it is fitting. It is fitting to dissect that and use the tower card. In the tower card, most of the tower cards and most tarot decks, you have a lightning bolt that is coming from above, and it is just striking this tower and making it crumble and breaking it down. And you've got people jumping out of the windows trying to flee, but they're just gonna land on the concrete. They're just gonna fall flat down. They're not gonna be able to escape this, and it is a reckoning. And I think with any cult there is an expiration. There isn't karma doesn't have an expiration, but cults have expiration dates. Okay,
Yes.
there is a beginning and an end, and it usually doesn't end well for the cult leaders. It usually doesn't, even if they don't go to jail, even if they get old and die of old age. One of the guys in there, he said it perfectly. He said, churches are messy places with messy people where there's a lot of messiness going on, and cult leaders like it neat and clean and
Yes.
controlled and constricted, and they cannot get rid of that messiness because that's the whole thing. That's what happens when you have a church, a group, when you group people together and you have these leaders that are to be obeyed and worshiped and adored. You have a mess because it's unnatural. People are meant to have their own brains and their own minds and find their own path spiritually to whatever it is that they call the
Exactly.
divine or their higher self or whatever it is. If you're an atheist, your better self, your optimum self, whatever it is, and we're all meant to find that path and live that path on our own. That's why we have a brain. If we were all meant to do the same thing, we would all share the same brain, but
Exactly.
that's domination because you're giving up control to someone or something else when you really need to be soul searching on a continuous basis and
Hmm.
finding these answers and reevaluating your own answers on a regular basis and not letting someone else do the work for you because they're going to get everything from you. They're going to get your money, they're going to get your
Right.
freedom, they're going to get your mind, your psyche, and your soul.
Yep. You
So,
know, and bringing it back to the tarot, just to when you asked me about this, and we talked that we were going to touch on the tower, it got me thinking about the major arcana and how the items that are in the teens of the major arcana, and you can throw these up there if you want to, to pictorialize them. But I was looking at that. It starts with 13, which is the death card. It goes to 14, which is temperance. And then we get into, I guess, the quote unquote more scary, for people that are not familiar with tarot, scarier cards like 15, the devil,
right.
16, the tower. But then after we edge through the tower, we get three different other cards: the star, the moon, and the sun. So it starts with death, which is a transformation, and it ends with the sun. Like it's literally telling you a story of transition and change throughout that teen portion of the major arcana, which I found very fascinating. Okay, we can pick apart each and every one of these, but if we're focusing on the tower, you know, that is the darkest before the light. You know,
Right.
that's what I look at when you see the star coming through after the tower card. You know, it's not necessarily what I wrote down on the tower, and I think this is how we can discuss the psychology. This is what I thought about the tower. The tower represents institutions, pillars of thought, belief systems, and constructs, social, corporate, or religious institutions. You know, it can be any kind of institution, right?
Right.
So but the pillars of thought is literally another tower. That is your own thought process. That is your own belief systems and your constructs and how you deal with your own perceptions of your world. And so when you get a tower card, you know, in my estimation, it's not a scary card saying that everything is going to come down crashing. It really is a time to kind of think about what in your life might need some reevaluation or introspection. If it's personal, what kind of beliefs and needs and what about these structures need to change? If it's institutional, right?
Right.
You know, what about some of those big pieces in your life might need a reevaluation because something isn't working to cause a tower moment in your life.
Right.
And it can be a warning sign of some trouble ahead, or it can also just be that, hey, have you given enough thought to a plan? I mean, it really, as we know, if you're thinking of a specific thought or intention before you pull a tarot card and you get a tower, well, that's basically in my estimation what it's asking you to do. Reevaluate your question or your line of thinking or your way of action on something.
Right.
I'll stop there, but
yeah,
I really
and
like the pillar of thought concept, you know,
right,
because it comes back to this cult thing that we're talking about.
right, and you know, I want to go back to the hair thing and tie that in because you're right. A lot of these cult leaders, you can tell by their appearance, they really dress and groom themselves in a really bizarre way. The more
Yes.
egomaniacal they get, the
Yep.
the you know, Benny Hill, remember that preacher? He had that weird big hair.
Yep.
And this woman here, this shambling woman on this cult series, um, it looked like in the 80s her hair was okay looking, or you know, but then it just the longer she was reading, you know, leading that cult, the more bizarre her hair became, and it began to just look like, you know, I'm sorry to have to say this, but she looked like a trailer trash crack hooker
You know,
to me.
I mean, I don't know if she was thinking the higher the hair, the closer to God, but she really achieved
She
that.
has a tower of something there, but
She was. I mean, she was really.
I don't know. It
somebody
looked like
in the
any
actual,
minute something's gonna crawl out of there and jump
Yeah.
at me. You
Yeah,
know, they like, I don't know who was doing her hair, or you know, this is the thing when you get so big in your own Kool-Aid and you have enough
Yeah.
people yesing that, you know, and following this, you start thinking, you know, you're not in reality anymore, and stuff just starts showing. You know, you have these hairdos that are just completely insane, and I mean, to me it looked nasty. It looked like she didn't wash her hair. You know,
But
it
that's
was
that's what somebody even said in the series.
right.
No one was going to tell her that.
No one's gonna tell her that. You know, it's
and that again is that whole not wanting to, you know, once it's that cult mindset. You know, once you're in a cult, like you're not gonna express your true feelings because that is not what is required of you. You become a drone. And that's what I'm saying, that pillars of thought, your belief system, like, you know, that's how I interpret the tower. You know, that's how I feel like that is what it is to me. It's like, okay, what about how I'm perceiving something might need some reorganization? Because if I keep continuing on this certain path, I'm destined to have a tower moment. I'm destined to have this completely fall apart, and that's my warning. And so, you know, I mean, again, tarot can really help, you know, kind of get you on that that path, you know, if you really use it as a visual tool. But yeah, that's so crazy. That, I mean, the whole hair thing. Yeah, the fact that they said no one was going to tell her.
Well,
It's
yeah,
like,
no one told her because obviously she was carrying that weird thing for years, and it just I don't know, it looked like a bleached spider legs with I just every time I saw it I was like, there's gonna be a roach or chupacabra or some kind of animal coming out of that thing any minute now,
it
you know.
reminded me of one of those long haired Shiba dogs. You know what I mean? Like those
I don't know
Afghan
what
dogs.
the heck that thing.
That's what it reminded me of, like the Afghan dogs with the very, very long hair. That's what she had on her
Yeah,
head.
but
And
it looked like she had like three or four different wigs piled on top of
oh
each other or
yeah, it,
something.
it, it was, but it was definitely back combed.
Yeah, it
Because I
was.
could see the teasing in the back combing, that I was like, oh my
Yeah,
god.
it was a lot of
Anyway,
something, and but there's that tower. The tower is I think the tower is the energy of that tower and the archetype of that tower is the antithesis to cults, because cults like that, they like that cult structure, and they don't want to change it, they don't want anyone to challenge it, they don't want anyone to question it, and it leads right into stagnation and death, which again, you're talking about the death card in those teen trumps, so you're seeing the
yeah,
process here, even though in this example with the cult it's a negative process, but you cannot escape these universal patterns, whether you're experiencing negative effects or positive effects, the actual process there remains the same. It's a universal pattern you can't escape. So there is a lesson, there is a story there that the tarot can teach you about this, specifically to this thing here, which we're talking about.
yeah.
And I really love the tower card. I've worked with the tower card so much, it's no longer scary to me. When I
It
started,
shouldn't be scary.
no, it shouldn't be. None of the tarot cards should be scary. But a lot of people that don't really understand it, the devil card, the death card, the tower
Yeah,
card, these are the scary ones to people, and they don't really understand. But if you have taken some time to really learn these archetypes and use them, especially in your own mental health improvement
mm,
and in analyzing other things like what we're doing with this cult series,
yeah.
then this can be a huge, huge gateway, a huge tool to breaking down things and to avoiding a lot of pain and unnecessary bondage, to freedom. And
Yes.
I think that's what scares people about the tower, the devil, and the death card, because all of these bring about a type of liberation.
And I was just about to say, I like to call those the teen trumps, the transformative
Yes,
cards. They are the
the
cards that
transformers,
actually,
the true
because
transformers.
yes, because even the temperance card, look at it. It is
Oh, yeah.
literally transforming, water into energy, right? I
Right.
mean, that's what that is doing. It's the balance, it's the combination of actually the process flow. So absolutely, when people see those scarier type cards, it is nothing more than saying change is happening. It's either going to be thrust upon you if you're not aware of it, or get aware of it and get ahead of it,
Right.
and understand that it's a natural part of the evolutionary state of life, So, I mean, these are just destruction and creation cards all wrapped in one, So
Yes, yes, because
it's
that's really
really
what life
incredible.
is. Life and death
Exactly.
is all about destruction and creation. It's the cycle of life, it's the cycle of death, two sides of the same coin. I want to go back to this mental health thing in relation to this. Do you
Mhm.
think this is a good lesson in learning about the dark triad, specifically narcissism?
I think so. Again, you can use, you know, you can use so many different tools to kind of help you gain introspection on your own self. But what I love about tarot the best is that fact that you can really take it to a personal level for things that you really want to work on personally. And, in terms of narcissism, you know, if you have that kind of influence around you, it can be a warning sign that you've got that influence around you. You know, it can, you know, and just in terms of how it relates, I mean,
Like, for example, okay, The Way Down, God, Greed, and the Cult of Gwen
yeah,
Shamblin. Gwen Shamblin, to me, I mean, like I said, I want to preface this again. I'm not a mental health professional. I'm not a
neither am I.
medical professional. I don't have any credentialized degrees that authorize me to make a diagnosis on anyone. But from a
Mm-hmm.
layman's perspective, clearly she's narc and she's batshit crazy. Okay.
Okay, very true. Um, but yeah, in terms of how this relates to the tower, well, again, you know, I look at it as, you know, the bodies flying out of there. It's like the truth will be revealed
Right.
about someone, you know, again, a pillar of thought, a belief system, an institution, a construct, whatever that represents to you. It could be an actual individual, you know, that's being represented by that tower coming crashing down, the veils falling down, and you being made aware of it, whether
Mm.
it's through, you know, your own research or it being thrust upon you. That tower moment is coming, and her tower moment did come. I mean, she ended up dying, you
Yeah,
know, in a
crashing
helicopter
in that
crash,
plane.
but it was coming. She was under, you know, investigation. She,
Right.
you know, and she was lying under oath. All of that would have been revealed.
Oh
Her
yeah.
tower moment was coming,
Oh yeah.
you know, and all of it would have been revealed because she was literally lying under a deposition saying that she was not aware of, you know,
The
the abuse
beating
that
and
was
all that
happening.
when they had tape
Yes,
recordings of her,
exactly.
you
They had
know,
tape recordings of her saying use a glue stick or
right,
whatever
and
they
do
were. I
all
mean, you
this.
know, like
Yeah.
yeah, and or it was good that you locked your kid up in a
Right.
room for a week. You know, she
Right.
literally was praising that,
Right.
and then she was saying that those tapes were uh
Well, she was
manipulated,
just, yeah,
constructed.
she wasn't even able to lie based on
No,
anything in reality. She was just
no,
putting something out there, denying it just for the sake of denying. And yeah, I wonder about that plane crash. Her husband seems like he wasn't really an experienced pilot, and his ego got the best of him, and
possibly.
because they mentioned something about they weren't sure how much experience the pilot had in actually flying. So I
Yeah.
thought, okay, and he, I don't know what was up with him. He definitely seemed opportunistic,
Oh
and
yeah. Well, there's another narcissist right
oh
there. It was
yes,
really
oh
it was
yes,
really funny that story about how he just dropped the one woman like a bad
yeah, and
habit
his child,
because he
and
found a sugar mama.
yes, and he was always
This
getting sugar mamas anyway. The other guy
yeah,
that
that
was,
one guy really
yeah,
spilled all of his tea
spilled
and
all
said
his
that he was
tea. And I
yep,
wondered if he was on the down low gay. Like, he gave me vibes. I'm
that's
LGBT, so
yeah.
I've got gaydar. I've got a natural gaydar, okay? And I'm just, look, I'm out here in LA and Hollywood, okay? I've been LGBT all my life, so my gaydar is pretty sharp. It doesn't catch it every time, but I just thought this dude might be on the down low. He just gave me screaming gaydar vibes, like he was on the
Yeah.
down low, and he just, it's those kind of people. I'm not gay, but $20 is $20 type of
Yeah.
people, okay? you
Yes. Well, he
know.
definitely was Mr. Showbiz in that he slept around to get where he needed to get next. And
Yes.
that was and he knew he had that going for him, but
Yeah.
he also was very much so aware that his looks were starting to, you know, he was getting into his, you know,
Well, you
later
can tell he
years.
had some plastic surgery done. I
So he
mean,
had to, yeah, but he had to go ahead and secure a bag
oh yes,
for
he
the
had to
rest of
secure
his
the
life.
bag because he's getting
And that's what
older.
he did
Right. And he
with these
did. He
people.
did. He
And
secured the bag.
he secured his bag and he stayed with this woman and he wasn't in love with her, but you know, he was in love with that check. He was in love with all that money that people gave him and you know,
Yeah.
but again, that part also kind of, you know, in a way it's like it would have been interesting to see how that all would have fleshed out when the rubber met the road with these depositions that were happening.
Yes.
Because that is
Oh my
one thing they didn't
gosh.
show was if the husband was deposed as to knowledge, and I'm sure he was, and you know, that's all gone and dead with both of those people. Unfortunately, justice, justice wasn't served in the way, we would want it to be served within the penal system, but
Right.
justice and karma still was served.
Yeah.
And they both, died. Unfortunately, karma does not have an expiration date.
It does not have an expiration
They
date.
still got some karma there.
Yes, they did.
But
yes, they did.
I feel for the victims because honestly,
Yeah.
they didn't get any closure from all the.
No, they're like so many people that you and I know,
Yep.
and from my own experience, when you're in a high control group and you leave out of there, basically, excuse my French, fucked up. That's the best way I can put it. And you are left to pick up the pieces and deal with this.
Yep.
And for the rest of your life, and if you're lucky, you might be able to heal significantly enough to get over the worst of it, but you'll probably have to deal with some amount of aftermath of that for the rest of your life till you die. And then, some of us, I mean, I know so many people that were my age coming up in the church, the Jehovah church that I went to, that had heroin problems.
Exactly.
Some of them went to prison, and some of them are still trying to stay out of trouble to this day. They're back and forth on heroin addiction and different kinds of really, really bad problems. I know people that commit suicide, and it's just,
and isn't that, and again, so many similarities because that's exactly what, some of these ex-members were saying as well on this documentary.
Yes.
The
children
suffered a lot.
Yes, suicide.
Have suicide.
Yes.
And all that stuff happening.
Right. And so mental health, this is a good study in narcissism, psychopaths, sociopath, that dark triad cluster B in the mental health category. The Way Down, God, Greed, and the Cult of Gwen Shamblin. It is on HBO Max. So if you have AT&T, if your phone service, your cell phone carrier is AT&T, you get a free subscription to HBO Max if you don't already know. So go ahead and check that out. Get on your HBO Max and check this out if you want to. Do you have anything else? Do you want to stop or you want to continue?
Any parting shots? No, I think this is good for round one. And if we ever want to do a round 2 or 3 or 10 or 11,
Yeah.
It's really good stuff. But yeah, I hope people do check it out. It is only in 3 little parts, so it's not like it's a super long series, which is kind of nice. But they do leave some things hanging.
I was about to say.
But
I was about to say there's a lot of holes there.
You can't get a lot of closure because the person's dead. I mean,
and then the daughter seemed to take over, and it's like a bad horror flick. The monster didn't really die. You thought the monster died, and the sucker came right back, and they give you a snippet of him hiding in the bushes somewhere, trying to get their next victim. So
I didn't even think about the daughter, but you're exactly right.
Yeah.
What happens next? Like, what is she doing? And maybe that's the other add-on is this thing still going on right now? And if it is, then it's under probably her leadership, which is crazy.
Well, I think so, and I think ever since that Surviving R. Kelly thing came out, I've seen a lot of different folks from different kinds of cult backgrounds come out on things like Netflix and on things like HBO Max, because it does do something. People do become aware, and it makes movement happen for people to get justice. And like those 2 parents in this series, they were like, well, maybe if we can get out the word to those that are
Yeah.
inside that might want to leave, that we're willing to help, then maybe we can help someone who wants it. Might not be our daughter, but maybe
Yeah.
it's someone else.
Yep.
So, I see that, and it works. When Leah Remini came out
Yeah.
with her series against Scientology, the aftermath, and then she did a special on the Jehovah's Witnesses
Hmm.
because so
Yep.
many of us were tweeting to her and messaging her and saying, "Hey, you need to talk about us, and this is help us." And we were heard, and
Yep.
that was pretty amazing back then too, by the way. But
It was.
I
It
see
was.
that I see that trend, and then Netflix had these other ones that come out just like this one. And then you mentioned Bikram Yoga, that was on Netflix,
Yeah, that
and
one was kind of insane too. So I mean,
yeah,
they're out there, but yeah, I think tune into it. I think anybody who's interested in this topic will definitely see a lot of the similar patterns, and and hopefully this little tidbit on tarot and mental health and kind of pulling all these things together. Hopefully it's another interesting perspective on on how you can utilize some of these cards just in regular life.
yeah, because cults come in all kinds of flavors, just like Baskin Robbins ice cream. There's 32 flavors of ice cream. There are a zillion flavors of cults. They're not all religious based. They can be business cults. They can be
Hmm.
biz op. Lots of cults are thriving in business opportunity. Get rich, MLM, pyramid schemes. Lots of cults in there. Cults can be mental health cults even. You have life coaches that, you have these life coach cults, and you have I think it was called the Echelon Institute. There was one out here in California in the 70s and 80s that had some real culty stuff going on in the mental health
I
sectors.
mean, that's what this one was. I mean, this lady was a weight loss cult. Like how
Right.
it started
That was
was it,
a
it was
weight
it
loss
was
cult, yes.
yeah, it was a weight loss cult, but like how it started, if you see it, it started with other churches promoting her way of
Yes.
thinking as an avenue to weight loss. So like they were basically attached, and then she just decided to balloon that up and get all the money for herself instead of sharing it with whichever church was promoting her weight loss. Like her
Right.
weight loss program, because it
Right.
was a Christian-based weight loss program, and that's how she got in with the whole religious aspect of it. And once she was able to get that foothold, much like all cult leaders, once they're able to get a foothold of interest, they go ham. And then they just break free and, and
Right.
do their own thing.
Right.
And again, like you said, institutions, social, corporate, or religious, you got to think about all those kinds of things, in your own mind. Like, what kind of control do they really have in your life? Are they controlling you, or are you in control of it? And that's the takeaway
Right.
whenever I watch any of these things. Are you in control of your own mind?
That's
Because
it. That's
nobody
it.
can nobody can control your mind but you, and that's the takeaway. And don't let anything take that much power over your own energy. Just don't. So,
Yeah, and it's easy to fall into it, So
yep.
if people are finding themselves in that situation for whatever reason or another, and like I said, there's all kinds of cults. There's political cults,
Mm-hmm.
lots of political cults. There are political leaders that use cult techniques, undue influence, to get those votes,
Mm-hmm.
to get those followings. You have YouTube cults. It can be one person
Yep.
on YouTube, and they don't have to have millions of followers. They can only have two followers or two subscribers. But if the structure of the cult is in place, it is a cult.
Yep.
So you can be your own cult. You can think that you're ready to run for governor with no qualifications whatsoever. You can wake up one day and say, "Oh, I'm feeling cute. I think I'll run for mayor." And you are a walking cult.
Yep.
Okay?
Yep.
So,
I mean, like you already touched on. There's a internet cult from that person that
yeah,
I
the lesbian
the
stud, the
stud. Yeah,
TikTok
the
lesbian
stud.
stud
Right.
cult.
So I mean, that's exactly it. I mean, again, social media is very cult like.
Yes,
Even
yes.
even calling people followers. You have to always
Yes.
remember the words that
Yes.
they're putting out there. So
Yes. It
know,
feeds.
you know, and
Yes.
people who have already been exposed to like cults do actually get triggered.
Sorry about that. We got cut off at the last tail end of things. So maybe next time we'll be able to fix that. But anyway, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching and for listening. And we'll talk to you soon. Have a good one.